Hi folks, I'm Eric Zimmerman. I'm the mayor of Normandy Park, and I am here to bring you a wrap-up video for the double November and December City Council meetings. I was lazy, busy, late. I just didn't get the November video done, and so I decided to bundle it with our December one, and I hope that I can give you some helpful insights into a few of the things that the City Council was working on. In November, one of the big things, I talked about this in October too, but I'm going to talk about it again. We got our periodic update done. Those are two small words. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in Washington State, cities that are within the Growth Management Act area, like Normandy Park, have to do an every 10 years or so big update of our local code, the laws and the rules here in Normandy Park that govern how we do things across land use, building, economic development, a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And we first got notice that we would need to begin this process in 2021. We started work in 2021, and there was so much to do across so many categories that our planning commissioners, all very knowledgeable, experienced, hardworking volunteers, and our city professional staff worked together through a series of meetings, studies, hearings, and desk work to pull together a very large, very professional, very excellent document that represents Normandy Park's periodic update for 2024, which is going to carry us pretty far into the future. Some of the features of that document are the land use element, which is how we use land and how we do building here in Normandy Park, houses, offices, parks, empty land, all kinds of things. And we made some good updates to that. We also had a fairly robust housing element. A lot of this was in response to new changing state laws. The state of Washington, the legislature has become very interested in the idea that all cities do things basically the same way and have the same rules for zoning and use of property. That's brought things to Normandy Park that we haven't had before, like duplexes will be a lot easier to build. Accessory dwelling units, which is putting structures in your own backyard for someone to live in. Even things like short-term rentals, where we haven't had very capable rules for those before, but the state has made changes to make those a lot more possible. And so that housing element has a lot of new stuff in it, which our staff worked very hard on to balance keeping things great in Normandy Park, the way that they've always been, but also opening us up to some of the changes that the state would like to see in the future. And I think those folks have done a really good job threading the needle, as I say, to make that balance be struck in the right way. One of the other elements of the periodic update is the transportation element, which is thinking into the future for how residents of Normandy Park 10, 20 years from now will need driving options, biking options, mass transit options, and making sure that we're allowing for all of those things to be viable and possible for our future residents and our residents today. There's also the capital facilities element, which is looking at the facilities, the buildings, the parks, and other things that we have here as a city in Normandy Park, the things we're responsible for as a city government, and making sure that we're funding, staffing, maintaining, and planning for whatever we're going to need far into the future. There's also an economic development element, which is for the limited commercial and retail activity we have here in the city, thinking of ways we can further grow and further enrich that so that more commerce, more economic activity happens here in Normandy Park and more amenities come for our residents to enjoy and appreciate. And then finally, in the environmental element of that plan, which is the rules and the laws that we have here locally to protect the natural resources that really all of our health and happiness depend on living here in the city. But a huge thank you to our community development director, Nicholas, who is now retiring. It's going to be a huge loss for us here at the city. Nicholas has been our longest serving community development director in a very long time, leads an awesome department, has done really professional, really high skill work for us, and has built a great department that's served all of our residents well. He's also helped to lead the work of our planning commission, all of the work that they've done to bring this periodic update to life. Nicholas has been really the heart of that effort. And so Nicholas, we're going to miss you. So that's a wrap up of what is the periodic update? Why are we doing it? What are the elements of it? It's a big read. If you want to read it, we can send it to you. Just let me know and we'll send you a copy. But take my word for it, we're doing the best job we can for you. Our government works for you, our residents, and we want to use your tax dollars well. We want to do things carefully on your behalf, make sure that we're doing the best job we can to keep Normandy Park a really great place to live. One of the other things that we had talked about in November, we had a town hall about this. We also talked about this at our council meeting. We talked about the levy that we have here in Normandy Park. Some folks are aware we have something called the levy lid lift, which is a periodically renewed extra tax that goes on top of the property tax that you pay. But what the levy pays for is largely our police department. Also, some of our public works, streets maintenance work is funded through that. But it allows us to have the size of police department that we think corresponds to safety here in Normandy Park. The number of officers that, for example, allows us to have 2 officers overnight instead of 1, allows us to have the right equipment, the right patrol vehicles, but in general, maintain a policing presence in Normandy Park of dedicated, skilled, experienced officers who are committed to keeping our city safe. And so we talked about the levy in a town hall. Not a lot of folks realize that when you're paying your property taxes, Normandy Park is getting a very small percentage of that. Our city government is allowed to keep 13% of your property tax, and then our Parks District, which maintains our parks, gets another 2%. So our city has a total of 15% of your property taxes. And we try to do the very best we can with those funds. We run a pretty tight ship here. We run very lean, but we do depend on that 15% and then some additional dollars that voters approve every so often for us to keep public safety strong in Normandy Park. Where do your tax dollars go aside from the city? Well, 54% goes to the Highline School District and to the State of Washington Schools Fund. So about 54% of what you pay in property taxes, and for renters, some of what you're paying in rent, is being allocated towards schools. Beyond that, about 15% is also shared by fire and emergency medical. Those are great things to be sending tax dollars towards. And then about 11% goes to King County for its general use. But between the city, the county fire, and especially Highline School District in the state of Washington, that's where your property tax dollars go. And we're happy to be very transparent about what we spend your money on. Every dollar we spend, we're really doing the very best we can to make sure it's an appropriate, important expense for you, our resident. And in the future, when we bring up the levy for renewal, we'll be glad to have conversations with folks as to why the levy is important and why we think it's necessary in Normandy Park for funding public safety. One of the last things that we talked about, and this was a big topic in December, we talked about the possibility of improving the amenities that we have at City Hall and in City Hall Park. A lot of folks might have noticed that right out front of City Hall is a grass patch that used to be a gymnasium, a community center. We had to tear it down for safety reasons a few years back. And since then, we've been trying to figure out whether we have the funding and the right idea for turning that into something else. And one of the ideas that we had arrived at was the possibility of building a sports court over that footprint where there's currently grass. And some folks like the idea of pickleball. We studied that with community members. We talked about that with our Parks Commission and with our staff. Pickleball is a pretty popular sport here in Washington. And so we had come up with a plan that we thought would be pretty enjoyable all around for having some pickleball facilities there on the grass patch. But, some residents raised concerns. And as we took another look at it, we did realize and acknowledge that of the sports that you can have on a court, pickleball, because it has plastic rackets and plastic balls, it's one of the noisier ones. It produces a repetitive, sharp sound. And for folks who live right next to or nearby a pickleball court, sometimes those sounds can be kind of annoying. So we're taking another look at that plan now and trying to decide if pickleball is really the right idea. It might not be. And we're going to make sure that whatever we end up with in that space, whether it be pickleball courts, gardens, something else, we're going to make sure that it's just really the right idea for Normandy Park, that it fits the space well, that it's appropriate for neighbors who live nearby and the impact it has on those houses, and that in general, we're spending your money wisely for something that's going to benefit you. But aside from those topics, this has already been a long video, so I'm going to wrap it up. It's been a big year in Normandy Park. It's been a great year. I'm going to do a year in review for sometime early 2025 to look back on 2024 and share some of the highlights that we've had as city staff, we've had as city council, or elsewhere in our city. But for now, I'm very happy to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you may celebrate this end of year. I hope that you have a great time with friends and family, and that Normandy Park has been a wonderful place for you to live, however many years or months you've been here. If there's anything I can do to help, please reach out. Eric Zimmerman, my email address is on the screen. You can drop by City Hall anytime you want and ask to speak to a member of our staff. Anything we can help you with, please let us know. Thank you so much for watching, and look forward to seeing you around Normandy Park.